Good day there everyone, and a warm welcome to my channel called Vintage Time. My name is Cliff. I'm a gem cutter from Australia, and in today's episode we have a very special design that I actually created. It's called the Eye of Anubis. Now this particular design will be faceted in Australian topaz. Unfortunately this piece does have a few fractures, but I will need to pre-form it. Now I will say that with the design, it's a square design, but what makes it unusual is that the table on the gem has an eye shape. Most square designs, you'll only usually see a square table. Sometimes you'll see a circular table, which is quite rare, but to have a table with the shape of an eye makes this a very unusual design. Later on in the video I'll show some footage from Gem Cut Studio just to show you what the design looks like and the sequence. And also, with this particular piece of topaz being typically an Australian topaz, it has some very fine root hole in it. You probably won't see it, but I can see it under the loop and it looks really cool. Now I've always found Australian topaz, or any topaz, quite easy to cut and polish. I highly recommend it for a beginner to start your first gem with. It's a breeze to get cut and easy to polish in my opinion. So with the Australian topaz I'll be using a sequence of these type of laps. To start off with, I'll be using a diamond encrusted 600 grit topper lap, and that will do most of the cutting except for the smaller facets. That will be followed by an 800 grit diamond encrusted topper lap that will go over the previous facets I've already cut, and then I'll follow through with a pre-polish using a copper lap with an 8000 grit diamond with 1 drop of sewing machine oil. And then on the final polish I'll be using a tin lap with 1 drop of sewing machine oil, but I'll be using a finer grade diamond, which will be the 50,000 diamond grit. For the majority of the gems that I facet, whether they're for competitions or for my own personal use, I only ever use the topper laps, the copper laps and the tin lap, and that has pretty much done the job for every gem that I've cut. In my early videos I would use cerium oxide on perspex or lucite, and that's actually good on quartz, but for all the other gems I'll use the same laps that you'll see in this video. So before we start cutting the gem, let's go through the design sequence on Gem Cut Studio, and at the end of this design sequence we'll have a look at a computer generated GIF of what the gem may look like once completed. So there we have it with the Gem Cut Studio design sequence than a computer generated GIF of what the gem may look like. So for the time being, I'll have a little break with the narration, but I'll come back later on and let's start cutting this gem. So we're back with the narration, and as you can see that the gem has now been placed in a transfer jig and the original dot will be removed, and then the cutting of the crown will commence. So the challenge with cutting the crown on this gem will be to get the table facet meet points to align with the surrounding facets. To add to the challenge, that the size of the gem is a lot smaller than I anticipated. Whilst cutting the girdle outline, there was an inclusion that ran deeper on the outer rim than I expected. So this makes the size of the gem smaller, which means that the crown facets, which are already very tiny, are going to be a lot smaller. So I've got to be really careful that I don't overcut, and trying to get those meet points on these very tiny facets will make it very difficult. Now that's the thing about faceting I've learnt: you need to expect the unexpected, which also means you need to change things up whilst you're faceting, because things can change midway through the cutting of the gem. So for example, you can have internal structures that I've had the problem with dealing with. Also, we're not perfect as people. You can make plenty of errors and mistakes, so to have the ability to fix your mistakes is a real bonus, and that comes with experience and just cutting all the time. So just be aware, for those people who are new to gem cutting, expect a lot of things can go wrong. This is not a perfect art form. I wish it was, but if you keep persevering at it and be willing to learn, then you'll find that it does get a bit easier. So here we have a fairly good macro shot of the current crown facets that I've completed. And so the next step is quite a critical step within the cutting process of the crown, because I'll be going into the pre-polish. And when it comes to faceting most crowns on a gem, you need to be able to hit a center point of the crown for the table facet to align with the surrounding facets. And if you found that from the base of the gem, the pavilion, so we're talking about your original culet facets, if they are out of alignment and your gem is not square or round enough, you'll find as you hit your center point, everything will start to go out of whack, particularly as you cut that table facet. So this is a really important step to complete, and so you may need to cheat a little bit left or right with your cheater, but that is part of the process of cutting a gem. So I've managed to pre-polish all the larger facets, but to complete this gem there are some tiny micro facets that need to be cut. So rather than have the machine turned on, I do it manually with a bit of water on my 800 grit diamond topper lap, and then I'll just cut these little facets in, and then I'll pre-polish them into the meet point. So once all these tiny facets have been cut manually, I'll pre-polish them all into meet points, and then I'll go back and restart the final polish on all the facets on the crown, and then finally cut the table. So that means we're getting closer to the end of another video. So stand by for the final reveal, where you get to see what this gem looks like, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, take care everyone, and hopefully I'll see you about in the next video. It's bye for now.